Quiet for about to start the meeting, please. Good morning, everybody. Chairman Roy, just learned will not be here today. He is out with medical, so we'll ask everyone to keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Speaking of which, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call, and then we'll start a meeting like we normally do with the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. But Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Henning.
Here.
Commissioner Jarvis.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Warren.
Here.
Commissioner Zender.
Here. Okay, so as we always do, we'll start our meeting with prayer. Dial, would you pray for us today?
Yes. Father, we join together today, people of the county of Lapeer, representing them and people here who we thank for being here, and the people who are not here. We ask your blessing upon all of the people in this county as they face many challenges, and we know that your power is sufficient for that, especially as we go into the Thanksgiving season. We give you many, many praises for the so many gifts that you've given us. Despite the challenges we face, we know we're a blessed people. We remember also that Veterans Day is coming, and we thank you for the men and women who have served our country over generations and who continue to serve to protect our country. Give us wisdom as we make our decisions today, and help us to do the right thing for people in this county. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Bishop, before we start the meeting, is there any particular housekeeping announcements from administration as far as room occupancy or anything else like that?
No, I would like just to mention really quickly, if you do not have a seat, we do need to keep the exit doors clear. So if you don't have a seat, there's seats in the hallway, and if we need additional seats to be brought in, especially if it's hard to stand for a while, please let us know. But we do need to keep the exit doors open. Okay. So if you are standing, just please clear the way or step into the hallway. If it's okay to mention, we can hear pretty well from in the hallway. So if you do plan on speaking during public time, you should be able to hear that and then approach from the hallway. It's okay that you're not in the room when that announcement is called. Okay. But we do need to keep the doors clear. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we will now move to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Any additions or deletions or the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next is the October 21 regular board meeting minutes.
Motion to move.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion or changes on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can you speak into the mic? We really can't hear back.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'm one of the softest spoken people up here, so we just have to get closer to our mic.
Thank you for mentioning that. Is that any better?
Yes, thank you.
All right. There may be commissioner mileage, expense sheets, grant applications, or things of that going around for the board's review. And if there's any issues that you find, please bring them up with the administration at the end of the meeting. And now is the time on our agenda for elected officials and department head updates. Is there any elected official or department heads? We'll start with Teresa. Teresa Spencer.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me full rank as the sheriff. I have a word canvas meeting starting at 9 a.m. So I wanted to take an opportunity to pass out to you folks the unofficial results from Tuesday's election. And the Board of Canvass will be reviewing all of those packets and actually making them official, but I wanted you to have that opportunity to glance at these.
And I understand they're in session now.
They're waiting for me.
That's what I thought.
You gotta run.
I do, but I
Okay.
wanted to offer, answer any questions if you have them.
Question? Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you very much. Good day.
Any other department heads or elected officials? We have our CMH CEO here. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. I wanted to speak to you briefly about the CMH budget. Our fiscal year 22 budget, which started October 1st, is $26,853,402. Of that, $24,597,731 is Medicaid funding. We provide services to over 1,600 of the county's most vulnerable citizens. And we rely heavily on Medicaid funding to do that. Currently, about 75% of my staff are vaccinated. Certainly because we receive Medicaid funding, we are faced with a vaccine mandate that's coming down the pipe. I just want to implore you to make sure that any action you take today does not jeopardize the funding to those 1,600 vulnerable citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Any other department heads or elected officials? I hear the sheriff was back there somewhere.
Andy's out there, but Scott's not.
Okay.
I was debating, but,
Kathy Haskins, our health officer and director of the health department.
I was debating, but, first off, just to let you know that, we do have the pediatric Pfizer vaccine coming in. So for those who would like it, we will probably start doing that next week, and hopefully I will have, schedule in the calendar. We're just waiting for the standing orders from the state, so that, it will be available. We are also continuing to do booster shots for those who are interested. And then I just want to reiterate what Lauren said. The resolution today is written much better than last week's. However, I just want to also remind you, and I say this kindly, I love this. I love the people in this community as well. I grew up here. I've lived here most of my life. But I think that when you get down to the second to the last statement, you need to take some consideration. I think there's a much better way to say what you're saying, and I understand what you're trying to say. But I think that taking it to the legislators who have some authority to do something, that's where it needs to go. Maybe a letter saying, we support this position, if you'd like. But to bear in mind that funding, okay, you've got docs offices that may not take Medicaid and Medicare clients if they are not gonna be reimbursed. You've got all of the nursing, you heard from Suncrest, you've got all of the nursing home facilities and foster care facilities. And you'd have to be prepared to fund the health department, because a good chunk of our funding is federally based and required by law. So I think I understand what is being set forth. Let me tell you, I don't have a crystal ball, but my guess is that there will probably be an option for something like testing instead, but of course, testing is going to require that you know if somebody is vaccinated or not. And that is one of the pieces that's in the resolution. I hate that this has become such a political issue because public health should never have become a political issue. Fact is, public health does a lot of good for the population. And I guess my parting thought is that I think there are far better ways to really truly get our point across, or get your point across to the government than a resolution that's really not going to hold anything, but that I'm just saying you need to be prepared to fund an awful lot of programs if you're going to truly hold to what's in that resolution. So that's it.
But we can't, you got up to speak during department head time, so I need you to stand up there for a second.
I'm sorry?
I said I need you to stand up there for a second during department time. Because you mentioned a couple of things that we need to respond to or ask you, so we intelligently can make a wise decision. One, you said you're going to have vaccines ready for children. You said that there's going to be vaccines ready for children.
Correct.
That's going to be so they can come as they wish if they want to get their child vaccinated.
Correct.
When you talk about vaccines, first of all, does the vaccine protect me from passing COVID on to somebody else?
Does the vaccine protect you from
Yeah,
giving
does
COVID
it
to
stop me?
somebody?
Does it stop me from passing it on to you?
Are you asking me if you can pass on COVID by getting the shot?
Yes.
The shot itself does not give you COVID. You cannot pass on the vaccine by getting the shot. I mean, the disease, just simply by getting the shot.
What I'm getting to when you say that is by getting everybody to have the vaccine, we already know that there's countries that are fully vaccinated and their people are still getting COVID. We know today we have people in the United States that have COVID. I have more friends that have COVID after getting vaccine than they did before they were vaccinated. Now, I have personal friends that have it the other way too, so don't get me wrong. I don't want to see anybody sick or die, but that's true. We're talking about science now. We're talking science.
The science of vaccine is such that it also depends on your immune system.
Okay.
Now, if you ask me if I wanted to be in a room full of people who have never had any vaccine, but there's a case of the disease in the room, or do I want to be in a room where everyone's been vaccinated, but somebody walks through, I'm going to take the one on the right. Are there going to be breakthrough cases? Of course. We have that with any vaccine, and you have to remember also that as you age, we're all getting older, our immune system doesn't work as well as it did. So some of that immunity will wane. Now, does it still provide far better protection than if you were never vaccinated? Absolutely. The ones that are on my list.
Folks,
We have to be quiet and respect them as they speak. We're going to give you all time to speak. And I understand their feelings, because I'm with you.
Most of them are older. But there's a difference.
Hold on.
You're talking about
Hold
choice
on.
on
You can't
this.
hear her?
No.
You can go over to the mic, they say they can't hear you, Kevin.
Sorry, I was over there because I can't hear him talking
I'll try to
when
do
he's
louder.
asking me
And
questions.
if you can move that closer to you, because people are saying they're having a hard time here, so get
All
the mic closer to you, and we'll go from there. So go ahead, finish talking, and then,
With any vaccine, there are going to be breakthrough cases because it depends also on a person's immune system, which is part of the science behind it. Okay? However, the number of people who have severe disease and die from it are far fewer in those who are vaccinated than in those who are not. Far fewer. Now, if you want to dwell on the people who got it, even though we were vaccinated, then I want you to also take a look at those people, the numbers of who got it, who were not vaccinated. Horrendously much larger number, horrendously larger.
Kathy?
I'm not done.
Okay.
This is something that we still got to finish talking about. So I'm not going to go back and forth with everybody. We've gotten to this point because of this discussion. The questions that people are seeing out there are from other doctors. And we're saying that we have to disregard those doctors' information because we're told this is a science that the CDC and the WHO has changed their mind several times in the last 20 months. And we have to take their word for it, that this is going to keep the people who are vaccinated less likely to get it. There is no fact on what you just said.
Rick,
You're telling us that, and I want the proof. That's all the people are asking for is the proof.
there are many studies out there. All you have to do is look for, you need to understand the
Okay.
definition of a good study, Rick, and I'm not here for a debate on that.
And I'm not either.
Because
And I'm gonna
anyone,
stop it right there because.
no,
Okay, all
I'm talking.
right, well, let you talk.
Just because somebody has the name doctor after their name does not make them an expert
Thank you.
on everything. Well, a lot of the docs who are saying that it's not a good thing are also not basing necessarily on good, solid science. A good scientific study can be replicated, the results can be replicated. It requires following a well thought out and studied guidance on how that study should be set up, to try to remove bias, to try to remove a lot of other things. There's a lot of information out there floating around that is not based on solid science. And I'm not even gonna stand here and argue with you, Rick, this morning on that, because that could take a long time. But what I
I'm
am
not
saying
I'm
is,
not looking for any
there's a
argument.
lot of
I'm looking for fact.
information. Well, if you're looking for facts, then I'm telling you right now that I am not going to pass COVID to you because I got a shot. Not from the shot.
Can you explain why some countries that have the majority of the people vaccinated have the highest count of COVID in their country? Can you explain that to us?
Without having a lot of other information
Thank
on
you.
it? No, Rick.
So it's
Do
a
you-
worldwide
can
global
you-
thing going on right now. The CDC, the WHO,
Can you-
Fauci, and everybody else is telling us what we have to do. Now, wait a minute, it's not a court order because we have, she's just
Rick,
telling
hold on
us.
one second. I got
Rick,
a point
the
of
whole
order.
point of this
Excuse
is,
me. Pause. Thank you. Point of order.
I think, at least by custom, if not by rule, we've not engaged in debate at the time of reports from our
Right.
department heads.
Right.
We have asked questions, but we haven't been offering
Right.
opinions and
right.
and
And that's-
generating debate during them. So I-
That's pretty much what I was going to say, is that that's not the point of here. You're looking at a review about passing from regarding mandatory vaccines, and I'm telling you that I understand what your concerns are, okay? A lot of what you're saying is gonna sidetrack that, because it's not, there's way too much that I could say on that, and it would be result in the debate. What I'm saying is that your question, I lost track of. And if it has to do with other countries, I don't have enough information to answer that question.
Well, my question
But
was,
if
we're
you are
different for the
gonna
kids.
ask me a question regarding the resolution, I'll be glad to answer it, but, or something that I can actually say or do something about it.
Okay, but the reason I asked the question was from the children's point of view, because what are the numbers? Because you said it's the facts. And we don't like to debate. It's not a debate. This is a question about the health department on the numbers of those children who get COVID. What is the percentage of them dying?
Do you wanna play percentages?
No, I just give me the number.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I would have to go and look them up because they change on a regular basis. Now, the number of kids who have become sick and hospitalized, since the Delta variant has been around, has gone up considerably. And MIS has gone up considerably. The decision of whether you wanna take a chance on the disease and possibility of that, or getting the shot is the decision that the parents have to make.
Okay, I have one more question, and I'm not gonna debate and go any further. Along with those vaccines that you want to give to the children, two things should be provided, and I hope they are.
I'm sorry?
Two things that should be provided with those vaccines, because they're not FDA approved. People don't even understand that. It's FDA approved for emergency use, but it's not FDA approved yet. So the two things that I think should be required to be along with those vaccines for those parents to make a wise decision. What are the adverse events?
Those are
what is
provided
statistics?
to every person who comes and gets a vaccine of any kind at our agency.
They have the adverse events provided.
Absolutely. That's a requirement. Did you guys, any of you who got vaccinated, you got those papers? Nobody's hiding anything.
Okay. Then I lost my train of thought on the other one. I apologize, but there's more to the story than just what you just gave us. But the other part of that equation is are they also offering treatments for anybody who got COVID or gets COVID or to prevent them from getting COVID? Is any of that being provided to those same people?
There
Okay,
have
I'm not,
been,
don't answer because it's out of your line right
the
now.
answer is yes. No, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Have you read my update in a while?
No, I haven't read your update. I'm asking you.
Well, if you have been reading my update, there has been information about monoclonal antibodies in that for a couple months, because that is the treatment that is showing positive results. And that's what they're, and you need to know that the state has had conference calls at the beginning of COVID every day of the week with health officers and with any medical facilities that wanted to tune in. And there were many hospitals and docs that tuned into those Tuesdays. Then they became, twice a week, and they're down to once. They were once a week, and now I think they're once every other week. But on every one of those calls, they provided any healthcare provider who was on that call with what was the latest on treatments, on testing, on the virus, on everything. That has been provided to those healthcare providers all along. They have not been in the dark, and they have been providing them the information on the treatments that are most effective.
And that being said, on monoclonal antibodies, try to go and see if you can get that from your doctor today. Where do they get that and how? They have to wait till they go to the hospital and they go.
No,
Okay.
that also has been in my update letter, okay?
Okay.
The hospital ER is providing that at our ER. It does require a doctor's request, but it can be your doctor sending you with a paper. MedStar Ambulance Services providing that. McKinsey Hospital, Marlette Hospital, you can get it at many healthcare facilities and some ambulance services. They are providing it. And when our staff contacts somebody, we are letting them know that information, which is one reason why we call people when we have a positive test, so that they're aware of those treatments that are out there. Anything else?
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And another related topic, just wondering, how are we doing with vaccinations for other viruses, like the flu?
We've been regularly giving flu shots out for several weeks. We've been giving any vaccines that are necessary, measles, mumps, rubella, all of those. We've been giving those since last summer. All they have to do is call for an appointment.
I heard a report or conversation on WGR this morning saying that flu vaccine shots are down dramatically this year over even last year. Is that true? I think they said 30%. Is that true in our county?
I don't know what the percentage is for our county. I know that we've had many people coming in to get the flu shots, as well as their COVID boosters at the same time.
I just wanted to clarify for you and for Lauren, I don't know if you've seen the actual, the most recent draft of the
Yes,
resolution.
I read it.
Okay, the issue that you talked about with funding is not included in the most recent draft. And
What
the
does it
second,
say, the second to the last?
yeah, it's not there, it says,
No, what does it say?
yep, it says who retains the right to make their own healthcare choices in consultation with healthcare professionals. That's all.
Apparently I didn't see. That wasn't the one that was attached to the agenda?
Should have been.
The one that was attached to the agenda that came out on Monday is the one that I read.
Okay, well, that's not correct. There's an updated one. There must have been a mistake.
I have not.
Understand.
Which,
Just wanted to let
let's
you know.
clarify, which were you talking about?
The last further be it, the second to last further be it resolved.
Where it says be resolved, shall not impose vaccination
I
requirements.
wasn't aware that there was another version.
Yeah, I understand. No
All I
problem.
can read is what I get from my email.
Understand.
Thank you, Kathy.
What did it say? What did it say? I'm reading mine.
The same as yours.
Let's
Okay.
stay with department head. Are there any other department head or elected officials wishing to speak? Hearing none, I'll close department head official update. Next will be public time, and there's two of them, folks. There's one at the earlier stage of the meeting right now. There's also one at the conclusion of the meeting. Some of you have been here before. For those of you that haven't, just so that you understand how public time works, this is your opportunity to speak with the board during our meeting. Your time is limited to 3 minutes. When we have a large crowd like this, we ask that you either limit it to 2, or if it's just going to be a redundant comment that's already been made, if you could just simply say, I agree with X, Y, and Z, so that we're not here all day. We do have other scheduled committee meetings starting at 10 o'clock, and those are gonna run late, I'm sure, as it is. But this is not a time for debate, so during public time, this is your time to speak to the board for your couple minutes, telling us whatever it is that you want to say. You're not to engage in the public, and it's not a pep rally where we all cheer. We do that when we go to our kids' games or whatever. We ask everybody to be respectful of the quorum. We try to be respectful of your time and your ability to speak. We ask you to do the same for other speakers. And so I will now open up public time. The clerk is giving me a motion that indicates that there's a green slips of paper in the back there, that if you make sure that you fill out your information, then you can just hand it to her right in the corner here at the table as you're coming up to the podium. When you do reach the podium, if you could just tell us who you are, just give us your name, and then have your 3 minutes, 2 minutes or less if you can summarize it, and we'll open up public time.
Just before we do, I'm curious, Commissioner, would it be wise of us to maybe make a line out the door and then just make a circle, so we don't have to have people wait to sit down and stand up and sit down and stand up?
Sit this way, we come around here and go.
I would say if we see at any point in time we got to direct traffic, then we'll worry about that.
All right.
People are usually pretty good as far as being respectful to each other and seeing who's coming up, so. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Carol Wynn, Marathon Township. Thank you for moving the resolution from last week forward. We are all just here standing for medical freedom, personal choice, body autonomy. I'd like to know, I'm just asking this, how do CMH, the health department, different places, Suncrest, how do they know the numbers of people that were vaccinated or receiving this therapy? I think that's personal information. I don't think that should have been asked. Someone said something about that we should send all of our opinions and resolutions to Lansing and let them take care of that. We all know that the governor's not working with our legislative branch. Nothing's going to go anywhere. I personally encourage parents to refuse the Pfizer vaccine for their children. Your children should not be part of these trials. It's an experimental therapy, not a vaccine. And I also ask, I think the health department should also be giving anyone who goes for any of these vaccines or shots or whatever they are, I think they should be given a list of the ingredients in them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And also, just a point of interest for y'all, because like I said, we don't answer questions during public time. The commissioners have commissioner comments at the very end of the meeting. So at that time, a lot of individual commissioners may address different comments that they've heard. If you're still needing to follow up, you can always follow up with administration office, or you can always follow up with your commissioner after the meeting. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Luann Jackson. I'm an RN, a Master of Science, and I'm currently working on my dissertation for a PhD in the psychology of health. What I am working on an everyday basis is how to help people get healthy. My major is learning how to read a scientific journal and how to understand scientific data correctly. In the current year and a half that I've been studying this, I have discovered that many things are not accurately discussed. If you had asked me 2 years ago if the CDC could lie, I would have said absolutely not. For my entire career, I have quoted the CDC. They have proven themselves to be liars over the last 2 years. I can no longer trust them. NIH, I have done research for many projects in my career, and I have used the NIH. I have even received funding from the NIH for a study I did on cocaine using women. However, they are no longer taking responsibility for the health of this country. We seem to be under a discussion by people who don't tell the truth. Now, I want to go back to the vaccine, which is not a vaccine. I want to ask you 2 questions. Have the compounds in this shot ever, in your knowledge, been injected in a human before? The answer is no. Never have they been injected in a human before. Second question I'd like to ask is, in the past, we've had coronaviruses we've had SARS, we've had H1N1, we've had numerous other kinds of diseases. When these diseases are scientifically studied, they are used to animals first. If we could have developed a vaccine for coronavirus, it would have been done by now. My second question then is, why have we not developed it before? The answer, because every single animal has died. Every single animal has died. The ferrets were the last ones. Before that, it was monkeys. I do not want to inject a compound into my human body that has never ever been injected before and which has killed every animal that's ever been injected in prior to this. Now, you talk about other countries. If you take countries like Japan and Israel, compare them, Japan has not done any vaccination. They have used ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, not any of the other compounds were mentioned. Ivermectin works. Japan has no COVID. India has reduced their COVID to almost zero, whereas Israel, with over 80% of vaccinated people, has the highest rate. If you look at their diagram right now, they have a line that goes right straight up. The vaccine, quote unquote, shot is creating a situation where people are acquiring COVID in greater numbers than ever before. Most of the research that I'm reading is coming out of the UK because, and I'm sorry, I'm talking as fast as I can to get my 2 minutes in. The UK has a great number of research projects coming out that I have been following. UK went into a great immunization program. Do you know that their miscarriage rate has gone up 451% since they started the vaccine? The vaccine, quote unquote, the vaccine, quote unquote, the shot is killing babies. The numbers of every other disease, from just normal viruses such as shingles and I'm losing my train of thought, I'm sorry. Anyway, the vaccine is creating an increase in other viruses. And we believe that the AIDS virus will be making a huge comeback. I don't have research on that, I just believe it. Last week, 2 children in the UK in the same school died. I'm sorry, my time is up.
You're good. And I'm not gonna comment, I'm not commenting, but I just want to get your information before you leave.
My information?
Before you leave, but go ahead, right now we leave, but get with me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hello. I agree with everything I just heard. However, I'm here from the freedom aspect.
Speak up, please.
We should have freedom of choice, and that's what this is all about as well. Yes, the vax, as they call a vax, in my opinion, is not. I agree with the predecessor that just talked. However, where's our freedom? Any other vaccine or shot, we've had the freedom of choice. We don't have it if you mandate it. And why would we mandate something when we have all these alternative ways of treating it? We should have our choice. We shouldn't have to choose between our livelihoods, walking off our jobs, over something that it just hasn't been proven. We're in an experimental mode, as was already discussed, and it's just very disturbing that people are walking off jobs. Hospitals can't take care of people because half of the workers are walking off. And, you know, we have other businesses that are mandating. We're seeing these things in the airlines industry and different places where people are saying no. And people need to listen because this is absolutely ridiculous we're giving our freedom away. And that's the part that really upsets me. Because we should be able to raise our kids how we see fit. Give them the shots if we want to. But if we don't want to, we shouldn't be made to do this. So our total freedom is being taken away here. The government seems to think they know what's better for us and we don't have a brain at all. And suddenly this is happening. How many years has the flu vaccine been a choice? Any other vaccine? I have 2 people in my family. One has tremors since the vaccine. Another has had shingles and continual sickness that got the vaccine. I don't want it. That's my choice. They wanted it, that's their choice. But I want my choice. That's all I have to say.
Can you just remind people to please say your name and where you're from when you speak, just so I can take notes too, who we are?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Get it all down, so I should be able to get it out quick, Mr. Chair.
I don't know,
My
it's longer than 3 minutes, John, but give it your best shot.
My name is John Stahl. I reside in Arcadia Township County Commission District 3, Commissioner Gary Roy's district. Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank and commend the commission upon taking up the resolution that would not force a mandate vaccine upon the employees of Lapeer County government to remain employed or find employment. If local governments remain silent on this important issue, it will not only allow but encourage state and federal overreach by violating rights of freedom in which both our state and federal constitutions protect. Are we property of the state to be mandated, forced to comply with an unproven therapy that has no record or proven efficacy, especially when there are alternative medical benefits of treatment and natural immunity? When I served in the Michigan legislature, legislation was proposed to mandate every 10 to 12-year-old girl to be vaccinated. A mandate would take away the parental rights of choice. This almost made it through both chambers, but through further deliberation found that the mandate was not necessary. We are not here to challenge the validity of the COVID virus, but the tactics used to create fear by using divisive tactics. Medical professionals that have worked in and around patients with the virus going on 2 years are now being forced to get the jab or lose their employment. Also, medical doctors who have successfully used alternative medicine to prevent hospital stays and save lives, only now to find their professions are in jeopardy if they continue to do so. My life was prolonged by such medical treatment. I am asking each one of you commissioners to represent we the people by strong consideration to vote in passing this needed resolution. In closing, I'd like to quote from the preamble of the Michigan Constitution. We, the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings, undiminished to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. Each of you took the oath to the Michigan Constitution. And I just ask that you consider this, and our blessings come from God, the blessings of freedom, not from people just like us that are in positions to make choices to mandate upon us. And the freedom of choice should be ours. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jenny Burkhart, live in Lapeer Township. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us here. We appreciate you giving us time to have a voice. I'm going to come at this from 2 different angles, and I'll make it really brief. And I'm super nervous, but I'm an independent supports coordinator in Oakland County, and I've been doing that since September of 2005. And our program was birthed because there were institutions, group homes, and then comes where I work. And we came here under the principles of self-determination, model of support. And one of the things that we hold very strongly in our workplace is it's about the independence and the choice of the people that we support. We don't call them clients, we don't call them consumers, they're people that we support. And as you and I know, we have to take HIPAA trainings all the time, and everything that I've been hearing about all this, it just breaks HIPAA. You know, I can't even say the first name of the person I support to anybody open air. I could get in trouble. I could have jail time. I could be fined. I mean, it's really serious. So all this to me seems like, from my reading, it breaks HIPAA. And I wasn't even coming to share that, but I think it's important to know that I hope that the people that we support and we fiercely protect their independence and their rights of choice, I hope that that same is done for me, because we also are Medicaid, and so I'm sure this is coming down the pike here in Oakland County. But I want to come at this from a totally different angle. I've only been a Christian since 2003. I have a college education. I went to Oakland University. I have a associate's and a bachelor's. And I can tell you that what I'm about to read, I would have thought anybody was nuts pre-Christ. But I want to share something from a different angle. This is my concern. Everything that I've heard is all true, what I've spoken about right of choice, but I just want to put this in the ear of those who might not have the same persuasion. This is from Revelation 13. This was written over 2,000 years ago by somebody who knew Christ personally. And they didn't have the technology back then that we have now. And so I'm just going to read briefly from this. Now, I want to quantify that I am not saying that this vaccination is the mark of the beast. We've all heard, oh my gosh, 666, the mark. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying this could be the precipice of that. So I just want to read to you why I feel that way. From Revelation 13, I'm not going to read the whole thing. And this is talking about the Antichrist. I know you guys think I'm crazy. That's okay. I'm here to do what God tells me to do. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. His number is 666. Now, I'm not claiming to be some prophet that I know all of that, but I will tell you the number 6 is represented as man. It's imperfection. So this is something that's going to be driven by man. But when I read that we can't buy or sell or come and go unless we have a mark, that's kind of spooky, because 2,000 years ago, it's sharing something that's going to be coming years later that's going to keep us from being free. And I just want to ask prayerfully and cautiously, when you're in your private time doing whatever you do, just ask Jesus. This crazy lady with dreads up there talking, what she's saying, just take it to your quiet time. I want the freedom of choice. Jesus came to give us life. But he also said, choose life for this day. Choose life. He gave us a choice. Jesus is here to give you a choice to follow him, serve him, because he died on the cross. He loves us all, and he loves us all uniquely. But he gave us a choice, and now man wants to tell us that we have no choice. Thank you.
Morning, folks. Morning. I'd like to thank you for allowing all of us to share our concerns and our opinions. My name is Phil Brakeman. I'm a resident of Metamora Township. I've been a member of the same church for going on 42 years, and I'm also an able veteran. What I have to say is a little different than what everybody else has been speaking, but I concur with the vast amount of the opinions that have been expressed. My few concerns are here is the wording of your resolution, if I may. Whereas with any personal health decision, the choice to receive a vaccination should be left to the individual and their physician. My concern is with the word should. It is likened to when we have what's called an issue permit for concealed carry. For many years, different counties had what's called a may issue, which left it up to the discretion of the issuing body. since that law has been changed and reworded to shall issue, it takes all of the ambiguity out of the wordage and is a definite statement. You shall issue this individual, provided he is legally able to attain a weapon. To receive a vaccination should be left. I would encourage you to consider changing that to shall. Shall be left to the individual. It takes out all the ambiguity. It takes out all the question of that. If I may proceed a little further. Disclosing private health information or vaccine status should not be required by any government. Again, I would ask that you consider the word shall. Make it definite. Make it steadfast. That the issuing body is standing behind the people, that the people can understand that there is no question that the county commissioners, the county of Lapeer, has our backs as the common citizenry, that you're going to back us up in our decision to either take or not to take that vaccination. Once again, COVID-19 vaccination requirements could create a two-tiered society. Commissioners, fellow citizens, I think that most reasonable individuals can substitute that word could to will create a two-tiered society. If you follow the history of socialism, communism, fascism, it begins in small steps and ends with giant leaps, usually on the backs of the citizenry. I think the term is called persona non grata. We as citizens don't exist except for the service to those in power. Once a COVID-19 vaccination passport system is in place, it could be manipulated to restrict freedom based on not just vaccine status, and that goes on. It could be manipulated. Again, I speak of history in the socialist parties, communist parties, and I'm sad to say the Democratic Party in this country. It will be manipulated. It has been manipulated. It is being manipulated. It is being crafted. I'm being told I'm short on time. One more item. Let it be further resolved. All adults should have the freedom. All adults must have the freedom, shall have the freedom to exercise their rights. Okay, one more thing which you people nailed quite well. Be it further resolved that Lapeer County government shall not impose a vaccination requirement on its employees who retain the right to make their own health choices in consultation with healthcare professionals. Folks, if we are not clear with the powers that be, our stance, if we do not take a resolute stance, if we do not stand for anything, we will also fall for anything. I much prefer what the founding fathers said. Give me uncomfortable or dangerous liberty rather than a peaceful slavery. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Pandora Kaiser. I just wanted to talk about the vaccine itself for just a second. Scientists call it a vax, and yet there are many doctors and many scientists who have broken those down. Every particle, every bit of the stuff that is in those, they do not follow the vax guideline. So to call it a vax really is a stretch. I know that for myself, the health department has made a statement about as we get older, our immune systems break down. I wish we seen as much thrust go into building our immune systems up than pushing, as we do pushing this vaccine. Because there are things that we can do. I'm in my 60s. I was exposed to COVID. And because I had already, from the onset of this COVID coming out, built my immune system up, I fought it. I'm not in perfect health, I'm in pretty good health. However, it kept me from getting very, very sick. It was just a mild thing. Because my vitamin D was up, I was taking zinc, I was taking ivermectin, I was taking a larger dose of vitamin C. If we did those things to build this wonderful immune system that God created in us, we would be much better off than putting junk into our system, taking a chance that it might help. And that is questionable. Also, she had mentioned about, from the health department, she had mentioned that following the science, and that and when you brought up doctors who have made comments and had opinions and research done on this, and she said pretty much some of those doctors may not be credible. Well, I would say that would also go for scientists. Many of them are not credible. Many of them have, as she has said, politicized this whole thing. And because it has been politicized, therefore, it doesn't take the health concerns of everyone involved serious, because there's always an underlying political agenda. And if we don't really see this, it was already said, no other vaccine has been pushed and mandated, and that threatened people's jobs like now. And as she had said, because it's been politicized, there is a political agenda, and that is the thrust of what's going on here. I would also like to just make comment that those that have said we have the right, yes, you know that. You know we have the right according to our Constitution. But we also have the right as parents for our children up till their adult age. It should not be mandated, because it will go further than just a job or just this or just that. Then it'll go, we don't have any rights over our children at 12 years old or whatever age. And then it will be up to them to decide. No, I say it's not only our rights as an adult, it's our rights as parents for our children till they are adult age. Everybody can choose. If somebody wants to go get the jab, that's their choice. But for those of us that don't, that's our choice. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. First of all, if we're still talking vaccinations, we're in big trouble. These are not vaccinations. When you got polio, what came out over 70 years ago, you got a vaccination. You didn't get polio anymore. Measles, you get the measles vaccination. You didn't get measles anymore. It's totally, nobody wants to say the commie word, that this is what they're doing to us. And if people can't see it from that, and I got plenty of information too, I'll take it personally to your home about the vaccination, about what it's, I got a friend right now dying, double vaccinated, dying. It takes only one. That's it.
My name is Colleen Jackson. I live in Goodland Township, Imlay City address. I wasn't going to say anything, but as I stood in this room, I'm looking at that on the wall, and it says freedom is not free. And I think there would have been a lot more people here had they known about this meeting. People that are here, I want to thank them for standing. We need to fight. We need to stand and we need to fight. And the other thing I noticed when I came in here, we said one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Liberty, guys. Liberty and justice for all. So why don't we stand up for those words? Let's please stand up for those words. In Jesus' name.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and for this resolution that you're presenting. I just noticed one thing that wasn't brought up yet. You know, you hear the phrase follow the money.
Yeah.
And we've heard be prepared to pay if you do this or that. Whenever we're threatened like that, with being held responsible financially for something we do not want, there's a major problem. And we need to go back to where those threats come from and stop them at the root. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing us to all have our voice. My name is Rose Navarre, and I live in Attica Township. I am an RN. I have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I have a strong background in biology as I was in pre-med prior. I agree 100% with what everyone has said, so I'm going to keep it short. But the politicizing is blowing my mind. What if people come up from the head of the departments and they say, be aware of what your decision will impact on funding? That has nothing to do with our rights. This is about our freedoms. And that blows my mind. I mean, I wasn't gonna talk. I thought about it, but after that, I'm like, this is all about money. And you made a beautiful comment about being informed consent for vaccines. You said the parents come in and they're shown the informed consent, and then they're allowed to choose whether they give that to the child. We all have the right to choose, period. And the informed consent on this, I have a lot of information. I completely agree with what, I think it was Luann, the nurse, absolutely 100%, and they're documented. We're not seeing, Google is throttling all the documents, all the research. Go on DuckDuckGo and you'll be blown away by a lot of the research. There's a big one that just came out of Sweden. Huge, huge research. Nobody knows about these things because it's not on Google. Switch to DuckDuckGo and your world will open up. I have practiced alternative work for the last 20 years. And I'm telling you, there is a dark, dark agenda on vaccination. And the people who did the Truth About Vaccines about 5 years ago said there was a program by 2020 to vaccinate all adults. And when this came up, I mean, I really was blown away because they saw that coming down the pipeline. All we want is our choice to choose. And that's our constitutional right under God. Thank you very much again for listening.
Hi, my name is Monica Dryberg. I wasn't planning on speaking this morning, but I feel compelled to as an advocate, as a parent for my children. I want to thank you for bringing this resolution to the table. I hope it's just the start. Through this bizarre, almost past 2 years, we're seeing the importance of local government. It's very important. We're seeing from the legislature in Michigan having their hands tied. They have what it seems to be our best interests trying to pass these bills, but where are they going? They're being knocked down. So now we're coming back to our local government, and it's so important. In regards to losing the funding, if we don't have life of mankind, there's no need for money or this world. God created this world first, and then he put man on the earth. So the funding for an experimental, there's way more to this than just this shot. This shot is being used as a vehicle for something more sinister, and that's stripping our God-given rights. Yeah. God gave us these right to life. We have a right to live on this earth that he created for us. And I don't want to see at the cost of the children. Again, it is a money issue. And it's not just money, it's control. People without God want to control other people's lives. Why? Because it comes all the way back to Lucifer, who said, I will ascend. I will. And what did God say? No. And he cast him out of heaven. And now we have this war here on earth. And so you all have been put in position by God to do the right thing. And I thank you for being here. I want to let you know it's an awesome accountability you will give for the care of all these people and their children and their grandchildren and for our future, not just now. This is for the future of mankind. And don't think you're just one person, you're one lowly commissioner. No, in the sight of God, you give account for every deed done in your body. And I thank you. I thank you so much for the ones who stand up for the life of mankind. And don't be afraid about the money. Who cares about the money? God provides for us. He provided the whole earth for mankind. And I feel like I need to, for this building, for Lapeer County, this is the county seat of government right here. I believe that I need to read these verses.
Monica, you're running out of time.
Yes, I'll finish. Luke chapter 13, verse 1. There were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Jesus answering said unto them, oh, sorry, wrong verse. In the meantime, chapter 12, I was on the wrong page. Chapter 12, in the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trode one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom ye shall fear. Fear him which after he hath killed hath power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him. Fear Jesus Christ, the King of kings, and the Lord of lords, who is the righteous judge.
My name is George Jackson. I'm a resident of Goodland Township, Midland City address. And I just wanted to say that the true statistics of how many people have died after getting this shot is not even being told, because they're not keeping track of how many people died before they had the 2-week window, which they consider you to be fully vaccinated after the 2-week window, or how many people have died after the first shot or the second shot. And we know personally people that have taken the shot and have died. And younger people that didn't have any underlying health conditions. And the last statistic I heard was 50,000 people that have taken this shot are no longer on the Medicaid rolls that were on Medicaid because they passed away. And you just can't take chances with people's lives. Everyone needs to have an informed consent, know the downside risk, and the true numbers of how many people have taken this thing that have passed away. And I just think that in this land of supposed freedom, that we are not free if we're mandated to do anything. That's all I have to say.
Ruth Stahl from Arcadia Township. I just had a couple thoughts. The pilgrims I just discovered were 12 years in preparing. They fled their country to another,
And they were 12 years in preparing to come to America. And I was thinking, wow, they gave 12 years just in preparation, their families, them, to come here. And then I was thinking about the border. Do you see any people wanting to leave America? No. We want to be here because it's the greatest nation in the world. The price was paid for us to have freedom. And so I just want to say I'm thankful to be here and that we can come together and realize the treasure that we have in the United States of America.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Freer from Imlay City, Michigan, and I wasn't going to speak today, but I felt like I wanted to mention the border is something that's always been on my mind, that we have an open southern border. We have over 1 million people that have entered into our country, and I don't hear any mandates for their vaccination. I don't hear that they're getting rigorous health checks and things are being done there. And so at the core, if we say we care about this virus, then we should have cared about our southern border and everything that's been pouring in from the Lord knows what. You know, we don't even know what's come across our border, and they have been filtered in across the entire United States. And we know as Michigan, we've housed a lot of those immigrants. We've taken them in and we're giving them a place. We don't know anything about their health status. So how can we mandate those that are doing things? If there weren't therapeutics, if there weren't things that worked, then I could see a mandatory vaccine. I could see that rolling out and being something that we need, but we have other things that work. And so with that being said, I'd like you to, I'm just a normal person, but I've looked at the Moderna stock and it was $48 a share before this vaccine broke out. And it's now well over $600 a share. It's a money-making industry for people. When you see a national news network being sponsored by Pfizer, several of their programs, there's something wrong. There's just something wrong with that. So I just want to say there's more than what we see. There's a bigger, broader picture. And I just want to thank you for taking up this resolution, for listening to us. And we just commend you. And thank you for your report. Everyone has their piece of the puzzle. Everyone has their information. And it is up to us to take that collective and make a wise decision. So thank you for your time.
I neglected to say my name last night, so can I have another turn?
No, you can't have another turn until there's a lot of people here that still need to speak. Thank you.
Very good.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening to us and for being very brave as you are, because there's a lot of people here with a lot to say. Hopefully not repeating some of the same things. So I'm going to dive into something a little bit I hope has not been repeated. You had mentioned something about doctors and scientists and being somewhat questionable. We do know that there are many doctors and scientists and researchers that have nefarious intent. We know that there are over 9 new billionaires since this COVID has started. We know that there are over 4 million employees in the federal government. We know that there are a lot of different flotations of things going on as far as money. And I'm going to start with Fauci. Are you aware that Mr. Fauci has not had a patient and has not practiced since 1968? That's a little shocking. Are you aware that his NIH team had been called out by the FDA back in 2005 for studies on orphans that they illegally attained, children, orphans, for again, nefarious experimentation? Are you also aware of the most recent storyline about the beagle puppies and the experiments that were done on those puppies? They were eaten alive by parasites, that Fauci had overseen this experiment, locking their heads so they couldn't move and sedating them. If you haven't heard that story, it's shocking. He has over 3,000 patents, people, 3,000. He is the highest paid non-government person in the DC. He has intent that is not of your best interest. And we have doctors, we have researchers, we have immunologists, we have biochemists, we have virologists. We have all of them telling us what we can do and the protocols that we can take to prevent COVID, and also if you should get it, what you are to do. And I can give you the full storyline of my own experience with that and people that I know. And I do know those that have died once they got the shot. And I know those that have recovered nicely without getting the shot. So the choice, we need to have the information. And these doctors that I'm talking about have been deplatformed, they have been silenced, they have been censored. Why is that? When we have the right stuff to use for our own immune system to strengthen it. This Fauci only tells you to wear a mask, social distance, and wash your hands. Ad nauseum. That's an MD for you, right? No, he is not. He is a political mouthpiece. And he has an agenda. And he sleeps with China. If you don't believe that, guess what? Someday you might start learning to speak Chinese. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Gabriel, and I'm just a plain old person, no, not important, but God loves me. But anyway, my story is, I think some people are not taking into consideration people that have had COVID and recovered, and their immune systems are really good, and they're being required to get the shot even after they've, recovered. And I'm one of those. My husband and I both had COVID, and we had it really bad. And like Tamara said, she came to our rescue when she found out we had COVID, and she told us what to take and the vitamins and stuff. And it worked. It helped us get better. But at the end of my COVID, I got a blood clot in my leg, and I had to go to the hospital. And when they did the blood work on me to see, if I was going to recover, if I needed to be hospitalized, I'm sorry. The doctor came back and told me, he says, I hope you take this as a compliment. He says, you, after looking at your blood work, and this is documented, so you could go and find out, he said, you are the most healthy person from your blood work that I have seen in months. So I'm 74 years young. And all the people that they say, if you're over 70, you're gonna die. I didn't die, I'm alive and well, and my husband is too. And we should not mandate people to get shot, especially if they have a good working immune system. And like Tamara said before me, if we would just find, and she knows all of the things to take, and we would never even have gotten, I probably wouldn't have got the blood clot in my leg, but I got that from COVID. So I just wanted you to take that into consideration, because 74 years and I'm alive and well. And so,
Hoorah, sister. My name's Tony Zarniak. I live in Elba Township, and I've been a resident here in Lapeer for 30-some years. And I just haven't heard it mentioned yet. And I just want to be a voice for all those who have been employed with the police department, the fire department, the medical field, doctors, nurses, frontline workers who have just given their lives and their energy and monies for college and school just to be told that if you don't get the vaccine, you're out of a job. And my wife and I worked in a shop for 30 years and retired early, only to go back to work because, the cost of living is what it is. And I worked for another 7 years at one place, and the last 8 years I've been a bus driver. Well, today I had to give my resignation because I refused to wear the mask. The mask, especially in the wintertime, and a gentleman who has glasses, it just fogs up. It makes it very hard to drive a school bus. It is, it's dangerous. It's just plain dangerous. And I'm not going to go into this winter like I did last year, trying to drive a school bus. My first priority is the safety and the welfare of those children. And I know my kids love me. I love them. I know at the bus garage, it was a sad morning, given my resignation this morning. I've gotten along with my bosses, everybody down there, but only because of a few. And it wasn't parents. It wasn't It wasn't, the students complaining, it was my fellow workers, a few of them complained, so the squeaky wheel always gets oiled. And, with that said, also, I stand up here for my son. My wife and I, we didn't make a lot of money, but we paid for his college. And he has a degree, he has a degree in science and health, and he is an RN. And, last year he was a hero, and today he's a bum and he's dirty, because he refuses to take the vaccine. And he's worked so hard. If you knew my son and knew the people that work around him, the kid, and it's not just because he's my son, but he is an incredible young man. This guy goes in, he takes care of these, he's in telemetry. He will go in there, and some of these people have never been told that they've been loved, and he'll tell them that he loves them and he prays for them. But next Friday is his last day. He won't get the jab, so he's got to quit. So mom and dad spent $50,000. He did an accelerated nursing class. That was another $16,000. He wants to go to U of M. He's been accepted now he wants to go into a nursing practitioner. That's like $35,000. And now they're telling him he's got to have a jab to do online courses. So this is so unfair. This is ridiculous. And so I just stand up for all those throughout this great country, these United States of America, and for the voices that can't speak, who have been told you can't go back to work. And these are people who haven't even got a chance to retire, after 25, 30 years. What do? They can't go back and work. They can't start over after 25, 30 years of seniority, but leave and lose it all. Lose it all because they're refusing the jab. This is unconstitutional. It's not right. And it should be addressed. And I just pray that the people of the United States of America, we take our country back. Thank you.
Hi, thank you everyone for listening to all the people here today and taking this resolution serious. My name is Jane Beckwith. I live in Columbiaville, so I'm District 1, Marathon Township. And I wasn't going to get up and speak, as many people have said here today, but when Tony spoke about his son, being mandated and his degree as an RN and not being able to work, I had to come up and I had to speak. So I have a degree as an occupational therapist, and I've worked in the field for 30 plus years, except for the last 7 years of my career. I've worked in office, and so I've worked at home. I work remote. And a month ago, I was approached by my employer and have been told that I'm being mandated to get the vaccine. Now, what makes sense of that? I don't even work in a building. I work remotely from home. So when someone says to me, it's for my safety and for the safety of others around me that I do this, that doesn't make any sense to me. That tells me it's all about something very, very different. So, so far, and I was told that religious exemptions, any type of exemption, will not be accepted, and that my personal choice, I don't need to explain myself. This is how it will be. You will get the vaccine, regardless of whether you work remote from your very own home. And so I don't know what my future holds. So far, they haven't really pinned me down, but this is what I've been told. So I don't know if I'll be employed next week. So thank you for your time.
Hello. I just wanted to say that I'm Betsy from Warrington Township. I represent my husband as well. And this isn't just about today's mandates, it's about tomorrow's too. The powers that will continue to chip away at our lives. our independence. And if we don't take a stand now, all of us, unfortunately, might just step off the edge of the cliff, because we were told to.
Hello, my name is Jacob Leroy. I live in Mayfield Township. Lenny Schneider is my commissioner. I would like to thank Rick Warren and Brendan Miller for coming together to create this amended resolution. I thank the commission as a whole for considering it this week. I support this resolution. I hope you all vote yes. To speak to broader things in our community, I think the federal government is holding the sword of Damocles over our heads with the county health to the employees. Either we give up our freedoms and lose our jobs and our way to support our lives, or we comply and, either we comply and lose our freedoms, or we don't comply and we put vulnerable people in our community at risk. So the reason we're here is because we as a community before us, we gave up our responsibility to those vulnerable members of our community and pushed that off to the federal government. And now they're coming back to stick it to us. What sense does it make that I go to work and I pay Medicare and Medicaid taxes, and now the government's taking it away from my community that I work for to support through that program? So, thank you very much.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to be back. I appreciate your service to our community, to our county. I have a few things that I want to address this morning. The first thing I want to address is 2 more weeks to slow the curve. Did anybody hear that? Yeah. 2 more weeks to slow the curve. As I was in the parking lot, parking my car to walk in here, Paul W. Smith on WJR, great voice of the Great Lakes, was interviewing somebody. He said, yeah, I went to this movie last night and it was packed, and but there were people that got there that didn't have their Vax card. And you had to wear a mask, and you had to have your Vax card. And so people went home to get their Vax card so they could go to this movie. Ouch. Ouch. That hurts. That hurts. That hurts deeply. As some have already spoken, they've said, basically the gist of what they've said is heroes have turned into villains overnight. Medical professionals, law enforcement, there's not law enforcement out there anymore. They were out there. If they were out there, I'd say, let's give them a hand. But these medical professionals, let's give them a hand.
I know you heard earlier on, but this is your time to address something, do pep rally with the crowd.
Yep, I appreciate the medical field and the medical professionals.
Amen.
They were heroes. And now people are villainizing them because they won't get the vaccine. That's simply what I was saying. So I apologize if that wasn't directed towards you, but it was directed towards law enforcement. We have great law enforcement here in Lapeer County. State police, sheriffs, local, from the get-go, they were supporting the people and doing what they're supposed to do, protecting the people, and they've done a great job with that. And they're my heroes. They shouldn't be villainized. So I will address then the resolution. Those other things, they are what they are. But I'm going to talk about the resolution. Last week, after public had their time, you folks talked back and forth. Some of you didn't say much. Kind of wish maybe you would have spoke up and said a little bit so we know what you're thinking. But some of you said, well, this resolution doesn't mean anything. I think it means something to me. I think it means something to people of Lapeer County. I think while you say it doesn't have any effect, doesn't have any teeth, it's a matter of standing up for what's right and saying here at the ground level, at the local county level, it does matter to us. It matters to the moms and the dads. It matters to the children. My wife is involved in the school systems. I'm involved at the church. I'm I didn't identify myself. I'm Pastor Jesse Loggins from the Baptist Church of Hadley. My grandfather was pastor of Trinity Baptist in Imlay City for several years. My dad was his assistant. I grew up riding my bikes and delivering papers around Imlay City. I'm now privileged to be a youth pastor. I was for 10 years at church, and now I'm 4 years as senior pastor. So bringing my family back into this great county. And this resolution is about protecting the residents. And whether or not it has weight or whether or not it has teeth per se, it is important and it does matter. And the voters are listening to see which way you will go on this resolution. And I, as a voter, encourage you to move forward with the resolution. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tim Carney. I live in Warrington Township. I've lived there for 25 years. Did you ever wonder about the name Moderna? Messenger RNA. This particular shot affects your messenger RNA. It's modifying your RNA. Your RNA is the building block of our bodies. It programs the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And what they're doing is messing around with your DNA because of the spike proteins that they developed in this whole shot. This is very serious, very dangerous. But the one thing I wanted to say is that DNA is set up in such a way that if you were a Hebrew scholar, you would know this. Hebrew has a letter, which is pictorial and numerical. Each of the letters. You have two other things. And in the DNA, across the DNA, you will see the word Yahweh written. Yahweh is God. That's the Jewish name for God. So respectful are they that they don't pronounce it. God designed our RNA and our DNA. He designed our systems so that we would not get sick and our body would be able to fight that sickness. What they've done now is put a spike protein into the whole mix that gets through the cell membrane and affects our ability to fight back. We're fighting not just a war here, we're fighting a spiritual war. This is very serious. We're coming to the end. The book of Apocalypse means unveiling. God's unveiling the truth right now. We're starting to see things come together that we've never seen before. We're actually entering in to something that's really, really spiritual and dangerous. It's time to start praying.
Is there anyone else before we close public time?
Good morning. Thank you for letting us be able to speak like this. I more wanted to come up here just so that you had another face that was younger, so that there's a little more younger representation. And it's not anything against the other. It's not anything against the other people. They all said really good stuff, but I just think it's important that you know that it's not just elderly or middle aged. This comes down to younger people as well. There's become a very staunch fear to live, whether you take the vaccine or don't take the vaccine. I have seen family members and friends who have changed their opinions on how they believe on the vaccine because they're too afraid to lose their job because I have a family. And this kind of speaks on some of the stuff that other people were saying, but it's like I've had to watch them take their morals, their values, the things that they were like, oh, I was very against the vaccine, but I had to take it because I didn't want to lose my job. In what way is that free? In what way is that fair? I'm worried that the United States is going to become a Naziistic, almost kind of republic. It's like it's not even going to be true republic anymore. We're becoming, like someone else mentioned, a two-tiered society where it's like look at how the Jewish people were treated during the times of World War II. They were created to look like they were pigs, if they were just animals, then they could be slaughtered, right? That's what you're creating if you allow this vaccine mandate to go forward, that the people that don't get the vaccine, they're animals. They're people that need to be, contained and to comply. And the good citizens are the ones that just go along with the program. I don't know if any of you really know about the Milgram Experiment, but I personally believe that we're in just one giant Milgram Experiment. That whole experiment was showing that people will listen to someone who is a perceived authority so long as they wear a white lab coat. They were actors in this experiment, but they told them, you must comply with the experiment, and they were thinking they were hurting people, but they said, well, I did it because they told me to. That is exactly kind of like what I'm seeing going on here. It's just one giant Milgram Experiment. There's a convention that me and my friends wanted to go to, and I looked on the website to see, I have a feeling, and I saw, I'm like, yep, you have to have proof of vaccination in order to go. So yes, I'm not going with my friends now, but what's that going to turn into? Yes, I can't go to the store now. Yes, I can't get a job now. Yes, I don't have the right to live now. It's becoming ridiculous. It's like you have to have a vaccine card. We're arguing whether or not we have to have a vaccine card. This thing that should just be a free thing like every other vaccine ever was, but yet there's no need for voter ID, I guess. That's not important. I guess the last thing that I'll speak on, and this is a little anecdotal, but I still think it's really important, is we have a family member who was in the medical field to some degree. I don't know exactly where she lied, but she got the paperwork that talked about what people died from within this medical facility. And she knew that those people went in with heart disease. They were older people. They were on their way out. But on the report, it said that they died of COVID. I mean, it's ridiculous because, and the reason that they're doing that is so that these medical facilities can get funding. If you incentivize the need for vaccines and stuff, then of course people are gonna say, oh yes, COVID was the reason that this person died. It's these numbers that we're getting for how many people have had COVID and are dying from it is, if it's happening here, it's probably happening in other places. But anyway, I just wanted to come up and speak that, so thank you for letting me do it.
How are y'all doing today? My name is Rochelle Legalski. Good to see you guys. I just wanted to mention herd immunity that nobody seems to be talking about right now. All of those nurses and doctors that worked all last year and the police officers that worked around COVID, I'm quite sure that they got it. Why are they being mandated to get the jab? And I know we've talked about that there's not an actual mandate, but the businesses are acting as if there is one, and people are losing their jobs because of that. So I would encourage you and implore you to do the right thing by the people. It is, if nothing else, it is showing the people in the community that you stand up for us, and that it gives you will be noticed. People will appreciate you. You'll stand up as the pinnacle of just freedom. It's just an awesome thing. And Genesee County passed a resolution much like yours last week. So I would encourage you to do the same. We're behind you. You'll have immeasurable support for doing the right thing. And thank you for your time today, and just do the right thing. I know you guys got this.
Hi, John DeAngelis, Benmore Township. Keep it brief, we have a lot of people here. I support the resolution. Genesee County, like Michelle just mentioned, has already done it. I mean, they're a blue county, we're a red county. Personally, I'm a little embarrassed they did it before us. I think if anybody should do it, it should be a red county, not a blue county. Thank
Your
you.
outside voice, John.
Good morning. My name is Truman Mast. I'm in Inlet City Township. And I am here this morning to ask that you guys would consider this and vote yes on this. I am a husband of one wife. I'm a father of 5 children. I love my God and Savior, and I love my country. And I am not willing to stand by silently and allow what God has given me, the liberties that He has given me, to be stripped away from me without me at least saying something. So that's why I'm here this morning. And I appreciate all of you guys being here, and I appreciate you considering this. There was only 56 people out of millions that signed the Declaration of Independence. Only 56 of them. If this resolution has no teeth in it, it's going to be because we don't give it any teeth. That's the only reason it will not have any teeth to it. It's up to us to give it teeth. And I want you guys to know that myself, I am willing to give it teeth. This is not us against you guys or us against anybody else. This is not a political issue. This is a liberty issue. It should be us against an idea, not a passion, a principle. That's what this is all about, is a principle. Are we going to be a free people? Are we going to make decisions for ourselves, or are we not? That's where I see this going. I appreciate that we have choice in this country. We've always had it since the very beginning of this country. Since the founding, we have had choice. A lot of people have died, fought, given their all for that choice. I think the question before us today is, are we going to be willing to pay that price again, to keep that choice, to pass it on to my 5 children that I have at home, that are in my care, that God has given me to care for and watch over. And I take that responsibility very, very seriously for my wife and my children. I will die for my family. And I would like to say that I will die for my country too. What we are dealing with is spiritual wickedness in high places. And it's time that we identify that, we unite as a united front. And it doesn't take us very, very many of us. David, one little boy, killed Goliath. All it took. He was obedient to his God, and it was a principle that he stood upon. The children of Israel, they were afraid of Goliath because Goliath was coming to fight after them. David, when David showed up, he says, how can you guys let this guy mock our God? He made it about God. He was fighting for a just cause. This is what this is. This is a just cause. Are we going to live one nation under God, or are we going to live one nation under Washington, under government? I would rather choose to live under God, like someone else said earlier. Give me dangerous liberty, rather than have that than anything else in peaceful slavery. So please, please know that this needs to be supported. It needs to be pushed through, even if it's hard and difficult. If the federal government has strings attached into our local community and says we're going to take all this money away, cut the cord. Let them go. We take care of ourselves. This is our community. This is where we live. It's time we get back to taking care of each other, ourselves, build community, and support one another. And I love this. And I know I'm addressing you, but I really am so encouraged by everybody here this morning. Encouraged by you guys for allowing this to happen. Please do the right thing. God bless.
Good morning, thank you for having us here this morning. What we've started so far today with the resolution, I think is excellent, but there is another document out there that might be helpful to you, just in our understanding of making sure that we are kept free, and that those white and red and blue colors that are on that flag are stood up for. I'm going to read to you just a few things from the Warrington Declaration on medical mandates. Excuse me, I'm just shaking. The Warrington Declaration on Medical Mandates, Biblical Ethics, and Authority. And many churches have signed on to this, but this is written very similar to the same structure that our United States Constitution is written on. There is a preamble, and now I'll read the section 1 on authority. We affirm that all authority in heaven and on earth has been bestowed upon God the Son, Jesus Christ. We affirm that delegated earthly authorities have been instituted by God as His servants to function as a blessing to those in their jurisdiction through their godly governance, and rule according to God's law and in obedience to Christ. These may be civil authorities, ecclesiastical authorities, vocational authorities, familial authorities, and self-governing individuals. We affirm that to ascribe total jurisdiction to any human authority is idolatry, since this kind of unlimited authority is reserved only for Jesus Christ. This establishes limits to the jurisdictional authority of all subordinate offices
that exist under the authority of Christ. We deny that the existing civil authorities have unlimited jurisdiction. We affirm that the scriptural jurisdictional limits of delegated human authority, this is so strong, are also established by good and necessary consequence, given that various offices are said in Scripture to be required to be obeyed in everything. It does say in Romans 13, we are to obey those in authority over us, but they are to do good and not evil. The sense in which everything is used in these verses cannot mean that obedience is obligatory for all commands, regardless of their morality, since Scripture also teaches Christian disobedience to sinful or abusive commands. In everything also cannot mean that obedience is obligatory for all non-sinful commands, since Scripture also establishes multiple offices of human authority. These offices may at times conflict, thus requiring Christians to consider which authority is acting within their rightful jurisdiction to determine if obedience is required. Thus, commands to obey in everything must refer to the obligation of Christians to obey all non-sinful commands of true authorities, which are also within the proper jurisdiction of the authority giving the command. We deny that biblical commands to obey authorities, whether civil, ecclesiastical, familial, or vocational, in everything can be construed to negate the roles of their respective jurisdictions, which Scripture also teaches. We affirm that in instances where a Christian's responsibilities to God and his fellow man are not hindered, the Christian may choose to obey some unjust commands, which, when such commands can be obeyed without engaging in sin. This may be because compliance with the command is done under duress, because compliance is expedient, or because compliance is rendered in exaggerated fashion in order to further expose the wickedness of the command. There is much more, but I would like to encourage you to read, it is the Warrington Declaration, and so I thank you for what you have done so far, and I hope you take it to its proper conclusion. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Gabriel, Deerfield Township. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, mandate the general welfare, promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution to be the United States of America. Let me tell you two things I'm tired of. Number one, I'm tired of statistics. Did you know that 63% of all statistics are made up? I just made up that one. Number two, I'm tired of the health department, the government, anyone who is not the father to my child, telling me how to raise my child, telling me what my child must do to stay healthy. God has given me as a father and my wife as a mother the instincts to take care of our own child and to make those decisions. Not only the instincts, but the authority to do that. So we're talking about the mandates here, about the vaccines. We've established just in the preamble that word's promote, not mandate. You can actually go and look up the history of why they chose that word, specific word they chose to keep us from situations like this. But when they were talking about the Bill of Rights and wanting to establish the Bill of Rights, there were people that did not want the Bill of Rights, not because they don't think that people should have rights, but because they were worried if we listed a few rights, that would give people an authority or representation, a foot to say, well, that right's not in the Constitution, so you don't have it. So what we did was we made the 9th Amendment, and I want you to see this is exactly where our right to refuse a vaccine comes from. The 9th Amendment, United States Constitution, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. I think the majority of the people in this room, we want to keep our right, and we will keep our right to choose what goes into our bodies. We talk about this resolution. I'm thankful that Rick Warren and Brendan Miller worked on that, and several others. And we talked about, well, maybe it doesn't have the teeth that it needs. Well, let me tell you this. I read this Constitution often. No mandate, no executive order from the president has any amount of teeth to dictate anything. No health department, nothing other than Article 1, Section 1, United States Constitution. The very first word is all. All legislative authority shall be vested in a Congress. So when you move forward and you think about how you're going to vote on this, just keep that in mind, that you don't have the ability, Joe Biden does not have the ability to deny us our rights. I just hope that you keep that in mind, and thank you guys for what you're doing, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, we're running well overdue. Is there any last public comments? There is, like I said, a second period at the end of the meeting. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Ted Sadler, Emily City. I'll start by reminding you the same thing that I remind myself as an elected city commissioner in Emily City, and that's that we took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I know you know that. I'll also remind you of what we discussed last week, which was the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. At each level of authority, we have a responsibility to protect the people that we represent, even from evil that comes from a higher authority, even to the point of resistance. I will remind you of that as I remind myself. And I'll ask a question. You know, when we think about certain dates in our history, we ask each other, where were you? Where were you on 9/11? Oh, I remember that day. Where were you when the Challenger exploded? Some of us might not remember that, but some of us do. That question can also carry a connotation of accountability, not accusation, but accountability. Where were you? My constituents have asked me over in Emily City, and as a citizen today, I ask you, where were you when this governor stripped my right to travel? Where were you when this governor stripped my right to enjoy commerce and employment? Where were you when this governor stripped my right to free speech or to assembly, to gather at church? Where were you when my and our and your own rights were stripped and stolen? Unless, of course, she deemed you essential. I was non-essential. I hope you weren't non-essential. So I would encourage you to not allow this evil to continue any further. Chairman Roy made a good point. He said, you know, we haven't passed any resolutions that mandate this on the people of Lapeer County. We know that. Frankly, that's why you still have a chair to sit in, because you haven't done that. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but we won't stand for it. And we're asking you to stand with us and for us as the oath we took dictates. Some of the folks who work for us on our behalf in different departments made a comment regarding funding. We had the same discussion in Emily City when we considered the same proposal. And I would say, let them take every dime. Let them shut the lights off.
Amen.
I'll meet you under the tree out there when they lock the doors. I'll bring candles. And I'll bring a quill and some parchment if that's what it takes. We'll start again.
Amen.
We aren't going to let this stand. And we're directing the hired help, I'm one of them, to take this stand, pass this resolution. don't make us come back. Thank you.
Anyone else before I close the first part?
You didn't get to finish, Lenny. Sorry.
All right, I saw you.
I'm sure it's getting to
Last
the end.
second like a poker player, right?
Good morning. My name is John Legalski, and I'm in Elba Township, Precinct 1. I'm in Dial District. All these citizens here today, we're here not to push you guys around, but to encourage you, to let you hear our voice, to show you that you have the authority here today to support this resolution. Take away the fears from people in this county, especially the county employees, that they would have to make a choice, either succumb to a mandate or lose a job. You have the authority to take that fear away so that the people who are employed in this county to ensure the security of the citizens and those who are vulnerable, our law enforcement, to take care of the citizens and enforce the laws, keep this community safe. Next to the 3 of the top most violent cities in the United States of America per capita. People here in this county who take care of our most vulnerable, our elderly, the people who are sick, wherever they're at, especially Suncrest. This resolution may not be perfect. It may not have teeth yet. The teeth will come later if it's necessary. That's what our job as citizens will be. We're here to support you. We want you to adopt this resolution. How many people here? No, you can't do that?
Pressing the board, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Can't do that. Thank you. Keep me in line. Throw me under the bus. I live there. That way, I feel home there all the time. Just ask my wife. Anyway, in Germany, pre-World War II, the systems of fear and power were in place long before any mandate was given by a genocidal group of people. How many people, good citizens in that country look back afterwards and say, wow, why didn't we do something before the mandate became enforced? That's what we're doing here in this community. Let's make this community an example to all the others and pass this resolution, good or bad. It's a good thing. Take the fear away from our people, from their jobs and their income. My name is John Legalski. I support this resolution. I would like for you guys to be able to look at that camera, look at these citizens, and say, I, Commissioner, support this resolution so that we can take the fear away and move forward. Thank you.
Let's go. Okay, hearing and seeing no one else, we'll close the first public time. Again, there'll be a second one at the very end of the meeting. And we will continue on with our agenda.
I did want to ask where this topic is going to come up.
Yeah. Okay, page 2 of the agenda, new old business. Item number 1 is discussion of the meeting schedule for holidays. I'm going to put this on, or else Mr. Administrator, control.
It was my understanding that in years past, when a committee of the whole or a full board meeting was conducted on a Thursday, for example, Veterans Day falls on a Thursday, which this building will be closed, as well as Thanksgiving, that there was either a reduction in the total number of meetings or those meetings were rescheduled. So a discussion needs to take place on what we would do for the upcoming Veterans Day committee meeting, committee of the whole meeting, and Thanksgiving as well.
The choice in the past has been, not that we just shut down those days, but or if we could move it to Wednesday.
I think it is actually on Wednesday.
It
for-
is scheduled for Wednesday.
For Veterans Day. So I would say we ought to keep that one. To not have two meetings in the month, I think would be too tough. You might forego the one on Thanksgiving.
Why are we gonna be at this?
Might be elsewhere.
So do we want to move both of them to the Wednesday before, or do we want to eliminate the one?
I think they both are.
He's saying already on the schedule for that, we're now deciding we want to keep the one before Thanksgiving.
Usually the one right before Thanksgiving, we usually cancel that one for travel plans. The other one, you can move to Wednesday. That's been my experience on the next time practice.
So next week, November 10th, we're having a meeting.
Correct. Should also report that the week of Thanksgiving, there will be no Board of Commissioners meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for that?
It is not. So November 10th, we will hold the meetings for the makeup for Veterans Day, and the week of Thanksgiving, that meeting has been canceled. That's what's being discussed, not what's been decided.
So do we need a motion for?
I think for
Otherwise,
public,
we'd be changing the proposed calendar, and I don't have a proposed calendar in my agenda.
I have one, I brought one down.
For me.
Well, no, I'm just asking, you don't need to walk over me, I'm just directing a question to administration. Right now, we have an approved, at the beginning of the year, in your organizational meeting, we approve a calendar that we then adjust during the course of the year.
yes.
So any of the dates on there that need to be moved, we would do so with a motion,
Yes.
and so,
I'll make the motion to move.
and does the clerk have those dates, or else, can you please repeat them for the clerk's purpose?
We will be moving the meeting schedule for Thursday, November 11th to Wednesday, November 10th. We will be canceling the meeting scheduled for Thursday, November 25th without a makeup meeting. The very next meeting will be scheduled for the following Thursday.
So that would be included in your motion maker and supporter, is that good?
Quick question. It's currently set as a committee of the whole for next week. Do we want to give ourselves any full authority, considering we're gonna be missing our full board, or no?
You're not missing a full board.
Okay,
You will not miss a full board.
gotcha.
Do you want to address the dates in December as well at this time?
No.
Their regular days are Thursdays, but it's preceding Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
Right, I think we'll probably take those up in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion and support regarding the calendar. Clerk's got those dates. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 2, proposed employee stipend draft motion to be distributed.
I make the
I
motion.
guess these are on the dais in front of you, and there's actually 3 draft motions that administration prepared. The first one is the original one. The third one was Commissioner Henning's perspective that over 2 fiscal years, those be divided up into 3 payments. The middle one, proposal 2, is kind of a middle of the ground between those 2. And also divides it up in between 2 fiscal years, but it doesn't do it in 3 payments, it does it in 2. So,
Chairman, I make a motion to remove number 1 and vote for that one and see where that goes, then we can move on to number 2 if that's.
Support. Go ahead, Linda.
Can I just add one thing? If we could just change that one word, the fifth sentence down, instead of essential, just put all, just for clarification.
And I'll change my motion to put that in.
So I think there was just a concern or a question on that one, because the federal government used that term early on, and that could cause a problem down the road with trying to determine who's who. And
Just
the intent all along was just to make it uniform across the county board, so. Any other clarifications or discussions on that motion? Now?
Yeah, since I was the one with offered alternative, I guess I won't go into great detail, but I think my concern is that giving this money all at once is rather unusual for the board. I think we do recognize the fact that our employees are underpaid. When we look around neighboring counties, we notice how many employees we're losing to other counties and to other jobs. But I think to do it all at once doesn't help us to retain employees. It begs the question what we're going to do next year. The
Call for the question.
No, we need to have a little bit of discussion.
We've discussed this over 2 meetings.
But I mean, he's entitled,
With all due respect.
he's entitled to give his opinion on
Sure.
3.
He did.
Well, no, here's the problem. If you shut that down right now without even having a chance to further clarify the other 2, you risk individuals voting no on that proposal, where otherwise they might vote yes on your motion. So I would give them a chance, because I would share Commissioner Henning's perspective that I want to make sure our employees get the amount. I think we're talking about employee retention. I think we all agreed with that. But I think it's important to divide it up over 2 fiscal years. And I think the discussion that I had heard a lot was the fact that we were talking about 3 impacts. What they've experienced so far past, what they're currently experiencing right now, present, and what we know they're going to be experiencing over the next year while we do a wage study. It's going to take at least a year for that study to be completed. And so motions 2 and 3 reflect that. Motion 1 is just in one shot, and I think you should be entitled to at least finish his explanation of that.
We've had several discussions over this.
At what meeting, sir?
We've had two previous meetings. We had.
This motion,
Madam Clerk, I know, but it's also not appropriate for you.
I apologize.
I would rule to at least allow the individual who had the floor to finish his point.
Not to have that stanchion, because to respect any one of us here, and whether we like it or not, we have to hear what he has to say, so we got to finish that up.
Come on now.
As Commissioner Snyder was suggesting, there are current and past, current, and future issues involved here. Another aspect of doing it all this year is the fact that our federal government, in its wisdom or not, has given out payments to practically everybody in the range of roughly $2,800. So this year, our employees, if they're married, would have gotten a payment of $2,800. So this year, they get a lot of money. Next year, when inflation is going to have more impact, and there no certainty there will be more federal government payments coming forward. They're not going to be getting anything unless we're ready to dive in and give out even more money before we've done the wage study. So I think in wisdom, it's better to split this up to some degree, as my proposal suggests. I would do it over now and then once each for 1,000 over the 12 months, in effect 6 months, and then 6 months. because I think that provides more help to our employees, because I do support the idea that certainly within the year, we could and should give them that money to begin to factor in the fact that they're greatly underpaid compared to other surrounding counties.
So, I mean, and I appreciate what you just said. We have another motion on here, another proposal for splitting it 6 months, or we can give it all to them today, as soon as possible. You talked about inflation, so inflation means what? These prices are gonna be more expensive. So today, they can buy more with that money than they could a year from now. So to me, that would be a poor reason for me to hold this up. Because of inflation, I'm actually eating up their money when I do that. In a sense, right? That's how inflation works. At the gas pump, you can't buy as many gas as you did last year. You should have bought a couple of cars worth of gas last year, and you could have gone all year with what they're doing today. I got my electric bill. I looked at it from the month before, my bill almost doubled. But I looked at my usage, because I thought maybe I used more. And I didn't, it was almost identical. That's called inflation. And I could have bought a lot more electricity had I had the money to pay for it earlier. See what I'm saying? So
That theory works if you can buy what you need this year and avoid it next year. And most of the expenses that people have, they're not going to be able to avoid it.
So right now,
They're
what
going
you're
to have to
saying,
buy.
what you're saying though right now is that the people are in need of using some money today.
Yeah, so my position on this is, I understand where you're coming from, Doc, I do. It makes sense to split up. But what I will say is the average employee has went through a hell of a year last year and a hell of a year this year. And, cost of living, we've already talked about it. It's gone up. We've talked about the 4% inflation rate. It's not just that, though. It's everything else outside of that's skyrocketed, right? Trying to buy a house, I can tell you, it's near impossible without a massive down payment. With $3,000 at what's currently set at a one time, you're giving your employees, you're saying, I understand the last 2 years have been extremely rough for you. I know you're underpaid. Last time we did the rise study was what, 2003? 2000. It's been 21 years. That's almost longer than I've been alive. All right. They have not seen any substantial increase in pay outside of the normal 2% since then. 3,000 says, hey, we acknowledge you. We're giving you this as an opportunity to do a lot of things. But with 3,000, you give a lot of opportunity. With 1,500, you don't give as much opportunity. With 1,000, you don't give hardly anything today. With 3,000, you can pay off a credit card. You can put down payments on homes. You can put down payments on cars. You can do a lot with that.
One point though, just
So,
to
I
make
just-
that clear, is the other two motions also speak to that same amount of
But,
money. It's
yes.
just dividing them over.
But here's the
fiscal years.
problem. I think there's two problems with that. One, as I said, 1,500 is just not nearly as impactful. Who knows what the impact, to Rick's point, who knows what the impact's gonna be at $1,500 next year anyhow, with inflation being the way it is. But secondly, I think to the morale of the employees, I've talked to a lot of employees at the sheriff's office and other offices, and I can tell you, the first thing I say when I say, well, what do you think about splitting it up? You know what? Every single one of them says, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll split it up. I'm sure we'll get the other 1,500 later. Now, there's a lot of a lot of cynicism on that, which I understand why, because things change. We have the money today. What happens, Dial, I know you talk about it all the time with the economy. What happens when the economy does go down and we don't necessarily have the same money we have today that we do in the future year, right?
And I would
So-
answer that, well then thank God that at least the motion commits to them early on 3,000, and if you have to change, at the end of the day, you're still using taxpayers' dollars.
But that's my point. We have the money now. We might not have the money a year from now. We might not have the money 2 years from now, because the proposal 3 is 3 years out. I'd rather just.
No, that's not right.
It is.
No.
Proposal 3 is.
It's the end of next year.
Well,
Both of them are 2 fiscal years.
okay, sorry, it's still within the fiscal year. But regardless, I just think the proposal 1 that was put forward in the motion is much more impactful on the employees. It boosts morale and much more, and it guarantees it to them in their hands, considering also the other effects that are coming down the line with the increases in medical insurance, which is what this year? What's going to be the increase of medical insurance this year?
It depends if you have a family with children and you choose the McLaren 3 plan, it goes up about, was it $40 per pay?
It's $480.
$480, that's $20 per pay.
So it's how much a year though?
480.
Or was there something else too that was going to increase as well? Or that was the only?
What happens is your deductible goes up $500 and you pay a little more at the office.
So essentially, instead of giving them $1,500 in this proposal too, would be giving pretty much $1,000, because the rest would be eaten up throughout the year.
Right, there's the deductibles.
So,
Yeah,
Essentially a break even on that
yeah,
point.
essentially break even on that. So that's my point. I think proposal one's the best way to go, but I do understand.
Well, and I think the Sender's point, we don't need to elaborate, but I did think it was important to at least be able to distinguish that we have two different philosophies here. All three of them are committing to the employee the amount of money. That's how we do it budgetarily over one fiscal year, 2 fiscal years. So with that explanation being outlined, is there any further discussion before we take a vote on the motion on the floor, which is the very first motion before you? Okay, hearing none, you want to roll call this one?
Roll call.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis. Yes. Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider,
No.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Commissioner Henning.
No.
So the motion passes 3-2. Again, I think it's important to at least note for the record that the full board supported the amount. It was more just budgetarily how we were going to do it with the budget. So that item's done. Next on the agenda is the draft motions, beginning with committee of the whole from the 28th. Al, would you take those, please?
Okay, we have in here the draft motions for October 28th from the Committee of the Whole. So I will move, and we've done roll call already, so I'll move motions 1 and 2 to the record.
Okay.
Support.
Two have been moved and supported. Any discussion on either one of these? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And motions 3 and 4 on page 2.
Support.
3 and 4 on page 2 have been moved and supported. Any discussion on any of these? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the draft personnel motions from the 28th, and Brendan, as chair of that committee, would you?
Yeah, I move that the full board authorize the health department to change one regular part-time public health program coordinator to full-time at no additional cost to the county general fund.
Support.
Okay, motion number 1 has been moved and supported. Any questions on number 1? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I move that the full board authorize community mental health to hire a paraprofessional ABA tech due to a recent resignation for the CMH Autism Benefit Program, and authorization to fill any subsequent vacancies due to an internal transfer at no additional cost to the county.
Support.
2's been moved and supported. Any discussion on number 2? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I move to authorize community mental health to hire a full-time paraprofessional staff due to a recent resignation/retirement for the CMH Stepping Stones program, and authorize to fill any subsequent vacancies due to a transfer and no additional cost to the county general fund.
I'll support that.
3's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Finally, I move to authorize community mental health to eliminate 2 regular part-time clerk/typist positions and create 1 full-time clerk/typist position and fill any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to an internal transfer at no additional cost to the county general fund.
I also support that.
Number 4 has been moved and supported. Any discussion on number 4? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the draft proposed motions from the American Rescue Plan ARPA committee meeting. And Brian, you want to take those?
Sure. I recommend, or make a motion to accept the bids from Midwest Commercial Door to rebuild the counter at Animal Control with a combination lock door and security glass, the amount of $12,449.03. Install security glass at the Drain Commission's office for the amount of $2,205, and install security glass, a new door with a swipe card access, and rebuild the counter at the Register of Deeds office for the amount of $14,617, for a grand total not to exceed $35,000 to be paid from 281 for changes to public facilities, exemplary category 1.7. And we did have 3 bids on all those. Midwest was
3 bids.
Yep.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other questions for the committee on that motion?
Yeah, quick question. The replacement of the counter at Animal Control, that's like it's like Formica, right? They're getting rid of it and putting in just a brand new one.
They're replacing it mainly because of the security glass issue
Oh,
and stuff like that.
Okay, just update security on it. Okay. That's all.
Okay, motion 1's been moved and supported. No further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
The second one is recommend to accept the bid from Midwest Commercial Door to install snow guard on the health department roof for a total not to exceed $5,000 to be paid from 281 for changes to public facilities.
Support.
Any discussion regarding the second motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Third one, motion to accept the bid from Metamora Water Service to replace the screen on the well pump at General Square at not to exceed $1,350 to be paid from Fund 281 to aid tourism.
Support.
Item 3 has been moved and supported. Any questions for the committee on motion 3? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. That takes us through those committees from last week and their related motions. Are there any ad hoc committees? Any updates? Okay, we'll hear any fiscal planning and budget discussion if needed. Finance director is shaking her head no. Administrative controller over there is giving us a no, so I think we're good there unless the board has any questions for administration. We will move on to the audit motions, and Dial, if you would handle those first, please.
Yeah, I'll move the road commission audit for 1104, and the county audit motion for 1105 with the controller.
Support. Okay, the audit motions before you have been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Penny,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Commissioner Zender,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis.
Yes. Honor of our chairman who's out today, he would say that today you authorized spending a full $2,881,000 $1,700.48 hard-earned taxpayers' dollars. Point out the federal, state, and local county dollars, they're all taxpayer dollars. Okay, next is the resolution that is in the draft resolution, I should say, is in your packet as attached on the last page of the packet. I believe that's the one that we were initially going to be working from. And who wants to start that one off? Rick, you're the one that originally brought up this issue.
I'm going to be moving this motion forward. Thank you. I had some discussions that I wanted to make some added changes to it due to what we just heard today and due to what I'm getting ready to read you in a few minutes. And those are replacing those words. And I listened to the gentleman in the military earlier, and I did agree with his statements. So we're going to change some of those shoulds to shall. And that would be number 4. We're going to change it. Where it said should, we're going to call that shall. And number 8, we'll call that.
Can we talk about each one of them real quick, just as
Okay.
we go through?
Okay.
So,
You want to go over this whole resolution right now?
no, I just want to go over the changes, because since I supported the motion, I just want to make sure we are on the same page,
Okay.
so we can make those changes, because everything that you say has to still be approved by me.
Yeah, and
So,
just, and point of order, every change that you're making, you gotta remember that you got a clerk over there working from the original that's in your packet. So you do need to point out the changes, and if at any point in time you're adding verbiage that, comes right out of here, we have to have it written down. Let's start off with at least working from the, so that she can follow along too.
So line 4, correct, Rick?
Correct, line 4.
You want to change should to shall.
Right.
So the implication would be, instead of us saying that it's their choice to leave it up to the individual and the position, it has to be left up to the individual in the position.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just have to do that. Good with that?
Sure.
So we go to the next one, and that's on line 8. And that's, again, we're going to change the should to shall.
Waiting for you to count.
I know, I'm just reading through to make sure that it makes sense and what we're actually saying with it. So 1 second. Disclosing private health information for vaccines should not, shall not.
I'm giving it to Brendan right now because he's the supporter of your motion,
Yeah,
so he has to agree with it.
Sure, I'll accept that.
Okay. And other than that, I am not making any more changes.
I will, if I can interrupt for 1 second, I will just ask the board, do we need to take, we've been going since 9 and it's 11:30. Do we need to take like a 10-minute recess before we start working on this? Or you guys want to keep trying to push on through?
As long as we hold the quorum.
We're 10 hours left, so
I don't have to leave.
we might have to take that 10-minute break anyway.
Why don't we use that as a,
That
especially,
would be great.
he needs to hear, needs to hear the changes too, so I'll declare a 10-minute recess. We'll pick back up again. 10 minutes.